you. So again, welcome to the Doctors and What They Do Train the Teacher session. Before we launch into the training itself, we'd like to share some information about the program and its design and content. Katie, can you go to the next slide? So ACOM's Doctors and What They Do program is designed to benefit 3rd through 6th graders and seeks to educate participants about health, wellness, and the osteopathic medical profession. This program was really developed to fill a gap we identified in a pathway to becoming an osteopathic physician. Doctors and What They Do is the first early learning educational initiative that ACOM staff, together with our 2 educational consultants who are K through 8 certified teachers, created. In 2010, the Department of Education published an evaluation of career education in primary schools, which found that young people who participated in career education increased their knowledge about the types of work and the pathways that could be followed to get there. It also found some evidence that pupils were more confident in their ability to achieve their aspirations. The purpose of such career education is not to sort young people into particular careers, as critics often fear, but rather to increase young people's awareness of a range of life opportunities and how to access them. So as the national organization to support people interested in osteopathic medicine, we found no prior robust curriculum that begins to teach students at this early stage about a career in osteopathic medicine at a national coordinated level. And with that, I think I'll introduce ourselves. Katie, do you want to go to the next slide? Thanks. So as I said, I'm Jessica James. I'm the Associate Director of Application Services and Digital Outreach. Jamie Bograd, who couldn't be with us today, she's the Director of Application Services, Recruitment, and Student Affairs at ACOM, and this whole program is really her brainchild. Erin Helbling also is on the screen, but not with us today. She's the other team member who is the Associate Director of Recruitment and Outreach. And then I'm gonna let Maggie, then Rachel, then Katie introduce themselves.
Hi guys, I'm Maggie Laughlin. I'm the admissions coordinator. I may have emailed with some of you. So good to meet you all over Zoom as opposed to over email, still online, but yeah, great to see you all today. Thanks for coming.
Hi, I'm Rachel Koval. I'm one of the educational consultants along with Miss Murphy who worked on this curriculum. And we're just so excited for you guys to be with us today. Thank you for taking time out. And we know that this is going to positively affect many students.
And I'm Katie Murphy. I'm the other educational consultant who is working on this project. This is a really exciting thing to be able to share with all of you. I'm so glad that you're all here. Just to give you a little bit of context, I am a kindergarten teacher based out of Maryland. And Rachel, I don't know if you want to give a little info about yourself there too.
Oh yeah, I'm in Nashville. I'm Nashville based and I've been working with 5th grade English students for the past 5 years.
All right.
So that's who we are. And in a moment, I think we'll let you guys introduce yourselves. But before we do that, I wanted to introduce a little bit about the students who you might see in your classrooms this summer. So the registration for the early learners to participate in this pilot opened in May. And we were fortunate to receive an immediate outpouring of interest. By late May, we were already near capacity at about 78 students who had signed up. So although additional students have continued to sign up, we pulled this data before our first training session. So it's a little bit out of date, but it tells us a little bit about those 78 students. We had a great mix of participants and a slightly larger number of females who signed up. We have students from almost every state. Our large group of students from Oklahoma is mostly made up of Native American or Indigenous students. Lastly, because there was very little advertising done about this program, it's exciting that the majority of students found us through a teacher or counselor. And that little chart on the left-hand side tells us how students found out about us. Friends or family was also another big pathway to interest for this program. Additionally, we have several medical students that will work with their own faculty mentor and deliver this curriculum in person in conjunction with their local elementary schools. We also have delivered this information to AmeriCorps Summer Study Program and Jennifer Lee, ACOM's previous osteopathic health policy intern fellow, who introduced us to an incredible nonprofit called Start Lighthouse that focuses on developing literacy to children in book deserts. And we hope to collaborate with these students this year and in the future. So following this pilot, as a quick note, we'll follow up with surveys of students, parents, and medical student teachers to gather feedback to improve and evolve the program for the future. We are really grateful that you are participating in this pilot program with us, because it's been a huge learning experience for us and something that we've never done before. And I don't think that anybody else has really attempted to do before either. And before I pass it over back to Katie and Rachel, I did want to let everybody know that we emailed the student teachers assigned to the June 21st to July 2nd, 12 p.m. session, that unfortunately, due to low response rates from those participants who expressed interest, that we wouldn't be offering that session any longer. We received a lot of interest in the session initially, but those students who expressed interest didn't really follow through on the registration for that one particular session. So we will add that to our lessons learned for this pilot. And lastly, for anyone who signed up to teach but wasn't assigned a teaching slot, we welcome you again to find local students and can help facilitate registration and provide materials for you guys. So with that, I think I will turn it over to Katie and Rachel.
All right, so here you can see what we'll be doing today. I'll just give you a second to look at that. Before I keep going, Jessica or Rachel or Maggie, the way that I'm sharing my screen, can you see it all, or is any of it cut off?
There's a slight cutoff on the right side,
Okay.
but it's very slight.
Okay, let's see if I can do a little something about that. All right. Well, that looks like it's just about the same to me, so we'll carry on. All right, so let's start by taking a look at some teaching tips. Rachel, go ahead.
Yeah, guys, so we wanted to kick off this session by giving you some general tips that you can use. We've divided them into first day things that you should do in that very first period where you are getting to know your students that you're going to be working with for 2 weeks, things you should do every single day, best practices, and then things that you should do on that last day of the course, the end of the 2 weeks, that'll really make it feel like a solid wrap up and a culmination for the kids and for you. So on the first day, we recommend everything that you introduce yourself, of course, and give yourself time and students time to speak and have their voice heard right away. So you can share your school that you attend, the year you are in medical school, and something like your favorite Disney movie. Anything that's simple, quirky, 1 or 2 sentences, but allows them to express their individuality, and you too, to start getting to know those personalities you're going to be teaching. The second bullet says swap, have the students do the same things, share their name and favorite Disney movie, or favorite whatever you think would be quirky and fun for your class. If you aren't great at memorizing names, that is okay. It is good to take 2 to 3 minutes and have students make a physical name tag to have in class. Of course, this is if you're teaching synchronously in person as well, not on Zoom, because on Zoom you will have the names there for you, hopefully in the corner. But it is so important that you use the students' names often in class, because that is how people feel seen, and that's how they start to feel comfortable sharing their ideas. And we know that the collective knowledge you're going to gain from more voices is always going to be better. So use names as much as possible, yours and theirs. For every day in class, we would like you to wear your white coat or scrubs. That just helps, of course, have that presence, give them a little bit of the awe factor, and build up your ethos with the kids. When you're on Zoom, set your name to student doctor and then your preferred name. So mine might say student Dr. Koval, or I could say student Dr. Rachel, whatever I'm comfortable with. Every day you're going to want to do a 2 to 3 minute warm greeting activity that prompts students to get to talk. Just like how we said on the first day, it might be just your name, your favorite subject, your favorite Disney movie, whatever. You want to do something like that every day that eases them into the class period and gets them comfortable before you start the knowledge building. So one thing I know I do with my fifth graders, if I'm noticing they're having a sluggish day before we kick off class, I'll say, okay, stand up, whether it's even on Zoom or in person. Let's play a quick game of charades, would you rather? So would you rather go to the pool or go play basketball? If you'd rather go to the pool, do some freestyle strokes for me in air. If you'd rather play basketball, shoot a fake basketball. It can be that silly and simple, but it'll just get them, a little more energized and into the lesson for the day. Finally, for the everyday tips, the last one we have for you is to make sure that you're using clear, kid-friendly statements of the lesson objectives each day. Katie and I are going to talk a lot more about lesson objectives in a little bit, but each lesson has one, and that's the big, why are we here today? What are we learning? And you want to make sure you state and restate that as often as possible, because that's how they'll internalize it. So the example we have is, today we will be learning about technology physicians use to do their job. So that would be one that you might start the class period with. Now, on the last day of the course, you have a lot of freedom in what you choose to do to have that fun, kid-friendly, engaging wrap-up. But some things that we recommend are, you could have tangible certificates that you give the kids. I know Microsoft Word has a lot of certificate options, so you can custom make those. You could do a mini course graduation and play pomp and circumstance and announce their names. You could call them future student Dr. So-and-so. Whatever you think after 2 weeks of knowing your kids might be fun for them and feel like a nice reward for working hard for 2 weeks. Another thing we recommend is you could do a Flipgrid video prompt. If you haven't used Flipgrid before, it's really just an asynchronous mini video project communication. And you could ask them something like, what will you always remember from this course? And how did this course change the way you think about doctors and physicians? Something like that, that'll get them open-ended and sharing whatever they would like to as a reflection of the course. And then, of course, the bright spots. Be creative, be personal, and include something tangible for them to take away from the course.
All right. So, with that in mind, since this is our first time together, we'd love if we could all introduce ourselves. So we'll do just what we have here listed for the first day. If you all can share your name, your school, your year, and your favorite Disney movie, we'll all take a quick turn. So I'll go ahead and start. My name is Katie Murphy. I am not in medical school, but I teach kindergarten. And my favorite Disney movie is The Little Mermaid. Rachel.
All right, my name is Rachel Koval. I am not in medical school. And my favorite Disney movie is Mulan, the animated original.
I'll go next, and then I will read the names that I have in the order, because I know that Zoom mixes them all up. So okay. I'm Jessica, also not in medical school. And my favorite Disney movie is Beauty and the Beast, also the original animated version. And then Allie Ditario.
Yep, that's me. I'm Allie, everyone. I am a medical student. I just finished my first year, moving on to second year. Yep. I just actually came back from a family visit. I was in Hawaii for 10 days, and I had fun with the little ones, nieces and nephews. And we basically watched Raya the Last Dragon. So that is currently my favorite.
Nice. I haven't seen that one. Maggie, do you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm not in medical school, and my favorite Disney movie is Lilo and Stitch.
Amy NP.
Oh, hi, I'm Amy. I'm not teaching this summer because I'm on like the wait list, but I'm a first year medical student at TCOM, Texas College of Osteopathic Medicine. And my favorite Disney movie, I really like Snow White because that's what I watched growing up. And so I would say Snow White is probably my favorite Disney character.
Ankita Chakraborty, and then Aisha Kurup.
Hi everyone, I'm Ankita. I'm a rising second year medical student at Rowan School of Osteopathic Medicine, so I'm based in New Jersey. And my favorite Disney movie would have to be The Lion King. Good one.
Hi everyone, I'm Asha. I go to Midwestern University, the Arizona campus, and I am an incoming second year medical student as well. And I think my favorite Disney movie would be Monsters, Inc.
And then Benjamin and BB.
All right, my name is Ben. Will be a second year medical student at LeCon down here in Bradenton, Florida. And my favorite Disney movie has to be Finding Nemo. So.
Hi everyone, my name is Phoebe. I'm also an incoming second year at California Health Sciences, and my favorite Disney movie would have to be Aladdin.
And then Dylan, and followed by Emily.
Hello, my name is Dylan Tebow. I'm a current second year medical student at Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine in Bradenton. Favorite Disney movie? I'm not going to choose the animated one. I'm going to go for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Hi, I'm Emily. I will also be a second year medical student this coming year at A.T. Still University in Missouri. And my favorite Disney movie is Aladdin.
And forgive me if I'm mispronouncing these, but Jian and Kaylor.
You're right, it's Jihan. So hey everyone, I'm Jihan Oh. I am going to be a second year this summer at Texas College of Osteopathic Medicine. And my favorite Disney movie is also Lilo and Stitch.
Hey everybody, my name's Kaylor and I am a rising second year at Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine in Philadelphia. And my favorite movie is also The Beauty and the Beast.
Good choice.
Yes.
Lauren and then Noor.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Hagenstein and I'm a rising second year at Rocky Vista College of Osteopathic Medicine, the Southern Utah campus. And my favorite Disney movie would have to be also Beauty and the Beast.
Excellent. Okay, we have 3 votes for Beauty and the Beast.
My name is Noor Fatima. I am a soon-to-be second year at Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine at Las Cruces, New Mexico. And I think my favorite Disney movie is Finding Nemo, which I think someone else said it. I also like Ratatouille. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I really like that movie. I think that's a Disney movie, right? Yeah.
And then Sahil and Sophia.
Hey everyone, my name is Sahil. I'm going to be a third year student at NYIT in Long Island. And I would have to say my favorite Disney movie would probably be Frozen, the first one.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophia. I'm going to be a second year at Midwestern at the Arizona campus too. I'm also going to say The Little Mermaid because it'd be awesome to be a mermaid.
Stephanie and then Tina.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie. I'm going to be a second year at ASCOM, also Arizona College of Osteopathic Medicine. Favorite Disney movie is hard, but I would say Zootopia because Jodie is very inspirational.
Hi, I'm Tina Anthony, and I am a rising second year medical student at Burrell College. And my favorite movie, I would say I'm giving my third vote to Little Mermaid. So we'll tie it up.
Excellent. And then again, forgive me if I mispronounce this, but Sonyake followed by Zachary.
Hi, my name is Chonyake. I am going into my second year at the University of the Incarnate Word in Texas. And my favorite Disney movie, it's a tie between 2, would be Mulan and Princess and the Frog.
Hi everyone, my name is Zach. I'm also a rising second year at the University of the Incarnate Word School of Osteopathic Medicine. And my favorite Disney movie would have to be Hercules.
Nice.
Is that everybody, Jess?
Yes, great to meet you guys.
Great to meet you all. I have to say you all do a way better job of muting and unmuting than my kindergartners did. And in an effort to kind of model for you what it would be like with you and your students, I'm going to share a little bit more about myself and say that as you all were sharing, I thought Johnny Tsunami, duh, that is my favorite Disney movie. Hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about, and I'm not much older than everybody, but I'm not sure. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and we're going to get into actually looking at the curriculum. So, okay, let me present. All right, here we go. So in your electronic packet, which you should have gotten in your email, you'll have your teacher training materials. So that'll be what you use to guide you. I also am going to be sharing that on my screen in just a little bit later. So you might want to have it close by so that you can look through it as we're discussing the different pieces of the curriculum tonight. You'll also have your lesson plans. That's what you'll be doing throughout, what you'll be using throughout the course to work with the students. You'll have guides for each lesson, as well as the worksheets that the students will be using. The lessons for students. So these are the materials that the students are going to receive. They'll have a PDF and a hard copy delivered to their home. They'll also receive a certificate of completion and a little token from ACOM. Rachel touched a little bit on the certificates for the last day. You're always welcome to do something of your own, but they'll have something from ACOM as well. You'll have a student roster, so you'll know the names of your students and the states that they live in, as well as their grade level. And then your teaching dates and partners, which Jessica talked about a little bit at the beginning of our presentation tonight or today, depending on where you are. All right, so let's take a look at the curriculum scope and sequence. I know that you all are intelligent adults and you are able to read this, but I'm going to go ahead and read these essential questions from each of the 10 lessons, just so you have a chance to kind of soak them in and think about what you'll be teaching throughout these 2 weeks. Lesson 1 is going to be a lesson about what it means to be healthy. That's a lesson that we'll look into a little bit more in depth today. Lesson 2, what is a medical professional? Lesson 3, where do physicians work? Lesson 4, what are the main parts of a physician's job? Lesson 5, what skills do physicians need to be successful? So you can see week 1 kind of gives a more basic overview, some more foundational knowledge about physicians and healthcare. Then lesson 6, what do physicians study? We'll get more into their education. Lesson 7, what are medical specialties? Lesson 8, what other professionals work with physicians? Lesson 9, what is medical school? And lesson 10, what kinds of technology do physicians use? So that was our little example that we gave a little bit earlier. All right, Rachel, would you like to share about the parts of a lesson?
Yes. So in each lesson, you will find an objective, questions, and materials, as well as 3 different kinds of activities. So you're going to begin each lesson with that all-important objective that I told you guys about earlier on, which is the big, why are we here today? What should we be able to walk out of this room iterating to other people? So it states what the students should walk away from the lesson understanding or being able to do. The essential questions is the way that you frame the learning for the day to introduce the terminology for the lesson. So it might be 2 or 3 of those. You'll see some examples in a little bit. And then of course, you're gonna get materials. We also have alternate materials if you're teaching virtually, of course, and for those virtual teaching modifications. So that's what the students or the instructor will need to have ready at hand or pre-prepare before the students come to class. For the types of activities, you're going to start every lesson with a warm-up activity. The purpose of this is to see student background knowledge. They might already walk in knowing a little bit about what you're going to talk about that day and want to express that to you, and to help the teacher see, what they already know and what gap you have to bridge in that lesson. For the main core of each lesson, you have the main lesson activity. That's where the new learning is introduced. Students are going to be doing just a multi-genre of things to engage with the activities and learn the new materials. And then finally, you're going to have a wrap up. So in the last 5 minutes or so, students are going to be able to synthesize, summarize, and prove that they understand the lesson, usually in some kind of small writing demonstration or activity, where again, it'll all tie back to that objective at the beginning.
now that we've heard the different parts of a lesson, we're going to go ahead and take a look at them. Remember to unmute yourself if you're on Zoom teaching that way. All right, so first we're going to take a look at a couple of lessons, objectives, essential questions, and materials. So every single lesson will have this section in your lesson plan. The lesson objective, like Rachel said, explains what students will be able to do by the end of the lesson. So for lesson 1, students will be able to identify what it means to be healthy. So we tried to make these lessons very clear for you so you can see exactly what it is that you're trying to get to by the end of the lesson. The essential questions, so this is what you want to focus the learning around or the discussion around. What does it mean to be healthy? What are different kinds of health? And what is health care? Then the materials, these are things that the students will have in their materials packet and you will also have so that you can show them what they need to take out. You know, it's always good to give more instructions, to give instructions in different ways for these little guys. So you might show them the paper, even if you're online or in person, say, this is what we're taking out next, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page with you and they're not missing anything. For lesson 1, they'll have something called a Frayer model worksheet, which we're going to go over in just a little bit. And then they'll also have a drawing sheet. All right, so here's another example of this part of our lesson plan for lesson 2. Their lesson objective for the second lesson, students will be able to list examples of medical professionals. Here are our essential questions. What is a medical professional? What are examples of medical professionals? What is their role in our community? And there are many kinds of physicians in the medical field. What kinds of physicians have you heard of and what do they do? So it's nice to give the students a chance to share a little bit about what they know. There's one thing kids like to talk about, it's themselves and their experiences. So that's a great way to get them engaged. And then materials here, DO video clips. So you'll see some video clips and maybe some of you here participated in creating those video clips. So if you did, thank you so much. And then a web graphic organizer for each student. You have all of these things in your packet and we're going to give you a little bit of time later on today to look through everything. But for right now, we're just going to do kind of an overview of these different parts of a lesson. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your Zoom hand so you pop up and we can see you have a question or just come off of mute. All right, so here now we've looked at that beginning part of our lesson plan. We're going to get into the actual activities. So here's an example of a warm-up activity. This is from lesson 5. So lesson 5 is all about skills physicians need. The warm-up activity with the little recommended time here, that's just kind of to keep you on track. It's really easy, especially if you have a super engaged class that has a lot to share, to kind of get derailed a little bit. It's okay if that happens sometimes. You know, if the students have a really interesting conversation they want to have, you guys have great knowledge to share with them, so feel free to do that. This just will help to make sure you get everything done in the time you have allotted. So the warm-up activity is called a consensogram. The students will place a sticker next to one quality or skill that they think is the most important for physicians to have. And you'll see in the lesson 5 lesson plan, there are some different skills that you would use for that. Then you'll talk about student reasoning and look for common answers. So, oh, I noticed that next to communication, I see a whole bunch of stickers. Can anyone tell me why they think communication is a really important skill for physicians to have? It's the kind of conversation that you would want to have. Or I don't see very many stickers next to this one. Does anybody think they know why? Just to kind of get conversation going, and then you can share your knowledge about that. Then here's an example of a virtual teaching modification. Students will share out the quality or skill they find most important, and you would record their responses in your slides. So if there's not a physical board that you can write the skills on or poster you can put up, you can just have them share out on Zoom. All right, Rachel, would you like to get into the lesson activity for lesson 6?
Yes, thank you, Kate. All right, so I get to go over the main meat and potatoes of the class period for lesson 6. And you'll see again, it has that 20-minute time suggestion. What I like to do is set a timer on my phone for each chunk of it. And like Kate said, if it goes off and we're in the middle of something really rich and good, let it linger a little bit. If not, know that it's time to move on. So this activity is called chat stations. It says students will rotate through 4 chat stations in partners, 2 minutes per station. So you would start by hanging 4 different chat station chart papers around the classroom spaced out evenly. For those of you already thinking, but what if we're on Zoom? Don't worry, the next slide is going to talk about virtual teaching modifications. So this is just telling you a little bit about the setup to get started. Then it says on each of those chart papers, you're going to write a question that corresponds with the station, boldly and clearly at the top. So on the first chart paper, you would write, how does studying English, reading, and writing in school prepare someone to be a physician? For station 2, how does studying science in school prepare someone? Station 3, same thing with math, and station 4, same thing with social studies. So you essentially are going to place these around the room, as well as several markers at each station, and the students will use those markers to jot down with their partners or small groups any thoughts that come to their mind as they're rotating through the station. So students will count off by 4, tell students that all the ones will start at chat station 1, 2's at chat station 2, and so on. And Katie and I are going to say a lot throughout this teacher training. This is ultimately your discretion, right? These little things. So if you don't want to have them count off, if you want to divide them by different things, or you want a slightly different number of students in each group, that is totally fine. As you get to know your students, you're going to know what's right for them. So make sure that you use your gut instincts and your discretion to do what's best for your class. Then we suggest that you instruct students that they will have 3.5 minutes per station to discuss the answers with their partners and jot them down on the chart paper. After all the students have rotated through all the stations, you're going to have the students be able to do what's called a gallery walk, where you give them time to again walk throughout the classroom or the space and see what students added before and after them to the chart paper, so that again, as Katie was saying, they're building collective knowledge. What patterns are you noticing? What ideas did another group have that you didn't think of that you want to shout out and you think was great? What things did you think of after the chat stations that you wish you had added that you didn't have time but you thought of later? Things like that, where you're just continually building knowledge and noticing patterns and disparities among the student thinking. Finally, bring students back to their seat and do what we just said. Talk about what they noticed and try to build a collective knowledge. On this slide, you will see an example of a virtual teaching modification, which is essentially in every lesson plan that you guys have in the master packet. So for this lesson 6 main activity, you'll see that the modifications include students independently complete the chat stations by folding a blank piece of paper into 4 equal quadrants, writing each station question at the top of the quadrants in a bold color, and then making a bulleted list of their own thoughts. It's not as interactive and up and moving physically, but the heavy lifting of building the knowledge is still there, and that's what's most important on a virtual classroom. So it also says, in place of a gallery walk, you can call on students to share their ideas that they jotted on their paper and instruct other students to put a check on the paper if they already had that idea, or to add the idea to their own list on their own paper. You can have them respond by unmuting. You can have them write it in a chat. Again, whatever feels right for the group of students that you have with you, whether that's the size or their level of extrovertedness as you get to know them. And finally, we're going to take a look at a wrap-up activity. So lesson 7 is called Medical Specialties. The wrap-up activity, suggested 5 minutes, is called $2 Summary. Why? Because you are going to pass out slips that say $2 summary and tell the students that they should write a 1-sentence summary about the medical specialty they would most like to do, and that each of the words that they write is worth 10 cents, right? Very gimmicky, but very fun and simple. So they need to write at least 20 words to get to that $2 mark. Example, if you need to share it, we have a lot of teacher examples throughout the packet if you've already looked over it. It says a dermatologist is a specialty physician that helps treat patients with rashes, acne, even skin cancer. They also work with nails and hair. They can treat over 3,000 medical conditions. Well, I wrote 29 words at 10 cents a word. I have a whopping $2.90. So I completed my wrap-up activity and I reached my goal. If you have time, you always want students to be able to share their ideas with either a shoulder partner or the greater class. The more student voice is heard, the more they're building knowledge. And at the bottom, you'll see virtual teaching modification. Students will just complete their $2 summary slips in their student-facing packet, and then the teacher can share the teacher example on the screen for them. And you can have students share out by unmuting or in the chat, as always.
All right, so that was kind of a lot of information, but hopefully you all got a little bit of a feel for what the different parts of the lessons are, the wording of the lesson plans, and you can see that hopefully it's something that you'll be able to take a look at, get comfortable with, and then do an awesome job with our students. I know that you will. So I'm going to get out of here quickly, and we're going to look at an actual lesson. So if you have your packet open, you can go ahead and go to, I'm on page 5 right now, that's lesson 1. So we're going to look through lesson 1. I'm going to kind of walk through it with you. So I'll tell you my thoughts if I was teaching this to a group of students, and we'll do a little bit of it together. So like Rachel and I have mentioned a bunch of times, once you're comfortable with this material, as you get to know the students, feel free to kind of tailor it to what works for not only your students, but what works for you, what you're comfortable with. The more comfortable you are and the more confident you are in teaching it, that comes across to the students, and then they'll be more interested in engaging in the lesson with you. So we already went over our lesson objective, essential questions and materials for lesson 1 a little bit ago, but I'm just going to reiterate them. I would always make sure that I look over my lesson plans, of course, ahead of time so that I'm super prepared to teach the students. Lesson 1 is all about health. So as we had mentioned, you want to make sure that you state in kid-friendly terms what you'll be doing that day. So once you've introduced yourself, once your students have all shared their names and something about themselves, you can say, okay, everybody, so today we're going to learn about what it means to be healthy. You want to kind of restate that throughout the lesson, like Rachel said. I've always done that with my students as kind of a way to anchor their learning. I find that if I don't do that, then they might leave the lesson and their parents might say, hey, what did you learn about today? And they'll say, I don't know. But if you keep saying, and we're learning about what it means to be healthy, and you just told me something that is a way to be healthy, and you keep on saying that, then they'll remember that's what they learned about and kind of be able to anchor the knowledge that they had that day so they can remember and they can tell people around them what they learned. So for the warm-up activity, this one is charades. So it's a way to get the students up and moving. I always find that there are some hesitant students with this kind of activity, and that's okay. I like to make sure that they know that it's okay if they don't want to be first. It's okay if they want to watch some other friends go first so that they can get an idea of what they want to do, have some more time to think about their idea. I hate to put a student on the spot. You don't want to give them a bad experience or have them remember, oh my gosh, I was so nervous and they called on me and I didn't know what to say. So just kind of try and read the room, see how your kids are feeling. I always like to do an example first, and if you couldn't tell, I always like to be a little bit silly too, to make it so that the students are comfortable with them being a little silly or them making a little mistake. So today we're going to act out ways to be healthy by playing a game called charades. So first, I want everybody just quietly to think to themselves about ways to be healthy. Remember that health includes your mind, your body, and your feelings. So I'd give a little bit of time and say, okay, I'm thinking about it. I want you to think about it too. Silence feels really uncomfortable when you're the teacher, but it's okay to sit in silence and give them some time to think. So I'm going to do that right now. All right, since you all are medical students, I know you certainly have thought of ways to be healthy. So I'm going to do an example first, and then if any of you would feel comfortable participating, that would be awesome. So I would explain to my students that charades is a game where you act something out. Don't take anything for granted that they know what you're talking about. And so I'm going to act out a way to be healthy. And if you can figure out what I'm doing, come off of mute and shout it out. Now, in your classroom, you can decide how you want students to share. You can say, once you've figured out what the person is acting out, raise your hand. Or once you think you've figured out what they're acting out, put it in the chat. Or if you feel comfortable, because you all are adults, I'm comfortable, go ahead and unmute and shout out what I'm doing. So we have an example here, so that is a hint, but here's my example of charades and how to be healthy. Go ahead and unmute if you can tell what I'm doing. It's very impressive.
Exercise.
It's a kind of exercise. Good guess.
Weightlifting.
Thank you, Rachel. You are exactly right. I was lifting weights to keep my body healthy and strong. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And if there are any brave and enthusiastic souls who would like to do a little charades with us, feel free to unmute, or you can even raise your hand. We can call on you. Don't everybody raise your hand at once, and you can get a turn to act out a way to be healthy. Also, wait time is something that teachers have to do. So thank you, Kaylor. I'm going to call on you on just a second. If nobody's raising their hand, or if you've asked a question, you can tell that their wheels are turning. It's okay for there to be silence. So just stop, wait a minute, and a hand will come up like you, Kaylor. So go ahead and unmute, and we will try and guess what you are acting out.
Good night's rest.
It's very easy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kaylor. So a good night's rest, that is a super important way to stay healthy. So also, like, you can frame what they've said and reiterate that is important. That helps with XYZ. Anybody else? Go ahead, Rachel.
Good.
Putting on sunscreen.
Yes, sunscreen.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Got
Gosh,
it.
taking a shower. Yes, sunscreen. Very important for keeping your skin healthy. All right. Thank you for indulging. I'm going to share my screen again. So we've gone through our warm-up activity. Now it's time for the main lesson activity. It says Frayer model, and then right underneath you can see complete Frayer model worksheet below. So if I scroll down in my lesson plan, here's the Frayer model worksheet that your students will have. So they'll complete this. It's like a graphic organizer for the term health. So first we'd fill out our definition of health, then characteristics of a healthy lifestyle, examples of good health, and then non-examples of good health. So that's just the language that's used in this graphic organizer, this Frayer model. They use examples and non-examples. Non-examples are just unhealthy things in this case. So if you go back up in our lesson, you can see how you would introduce the activity. So explain to students that by the end of our lesson today, we'll all understand what it means to be healthy. Then the Frayer model, like we just explained, is down here. And here you have some examples of things that students could put onto the worksheet. So first have them share out and talk about it, and then we can write it down on the worksheet. Once it's complete, you want to have them look over what they've learned, reflect on their own, and then share out. So I always like to give an opportunity when I ask a question for there to be a little bit of independent time for students to think and then to share out, so they don't feel like they have to raise their hand right away. If you have them raise their hand right away, you'll notice it'll be the same couple of students that you hear from most frequently. You want to make sure that you're giving every student a turn every lesson, and giving them a little bit of wait time and think time is a great way to do that. So virtual modification, they'll do their Frayer model in the student packet, and then you can record ideas on the slide or using a document camera if you have one. All right, then our wrap-up activity is very simple. Students will draw what comes to mind when they think of the word health. So you can tell them, you might draw something that you saw during charades. You might draw something that we talked about during our discussion, or something that we wrote on our Frayer model worksheet. So they're putting together what they learned that day. There's a little sheet down here that the students will have. Oh, and here's our answer key. There's answer keys in every lesson plan also, just kind of give you a guide or an idea of what you're looking for. But here they'll draw a picture of what comes to mind when they think of health. So then you would have them share their pictures if they want to. If you're on Zoom, sometimes I would have my students just hold up their pictures and I'd say, oh, Maggie, I see that you drew getting a good night's sleep. Can you tell us a little bit more about that or why that's important for your health? That kind of a thing. So you want to kind of make sure that you're engaging them in everything, getting a lot of student voices heard. So now that we've done a whole lot of talking, I want to give all of you a little bit of time. Let me share my screen again here so you can see what we're doing. A little independent time. We already looked over lesson 1 together, so you know where we'll be starting for the 2-week lessons. Take a look at lesson 10. Since we had 10 minutes to look at 1 and 10, we'll give you 5 minutes to look at lesson 10. Take a look at the different parts of a lesson that we talked about. Think about where we're going to be ending the 2 weeks. And then we'll come back and share if you have any questions or things that you noticed. When you all come back, we'll talk a little bit also about best practices for teaching in general. We've touched on them a little bit as we've gone through, but we'll kind of put them together for you and then we'll take questions. So hopefully you all have your teacher packet with the lesson plans. You're going to look at lesson 10 for 5 minutes. I have here on the East Coast that it's about 4:49. So we'll say at 4:55 Eastern time, we'll all come back and share if we have any questions. During this time, if you want to put some questions in the chat, you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, so lesson 10 for 5 minutes. Here I am doing my teacher thing again. So I'm repeating the directions just to make sure that they're clear. At 4:55, we'll come back to talk about what we saw. All right, so go ahead and take a look.
All right, guys. So I let you go a little bit over 5 minutes even to check out lesson 10, the last lesson in the course unit. Now, no one unmuted and asked questions or put any questions in the chat during that time. So I want to give you guys just an extra 15 seconds. Think, is there anything that came up while you were reading through that, either about the lesson itself or about best teaching practices or anything at all? I see a couple people shaking their head no. All right, well, you guys know that you'll be able to reach out to us after this if anything comes to you later on. So one of the last things we want to go over are some general best teaching practices. So things that you just want to keep in your mind every day that you go in there, whether it's on Zoom or in person, and you're interacting with the kids and trying to relay all of this knowledge and excitement. So the biggest thing we have, you'll see at the top, is building community, right? And you've heard Katie and I say a million times over, building community comes from hearing their voices. So you always, as a teacher, want to have just as much, if not more, student talk than teacher talk. You introduce the concepts, but you want them to talk to each other, talk to you, talk about the concepts, and build that knowledge together. And that comes from those little moments. So you'll notice that Katie and I, yes, we've been accentuating, the silly charades or the warm greetings. And really, the more you get into those things and lean into your inner playful child and get weird with them, the more they will see that you are having fun and they will have fun. So really make sure that you have some fun with that, like I said, and just pick out little activities that excite you, and that'll come across to your kids. So for student participation, make sure every student has a chance to share an idea, answer, or question every class. When I first started teaching, I wasn't as good at keeping track of who was sharing for each class period. So I would actually have a clipboard with their names on it, just like how you guys have a roster. And you can just do it as simple as have a pen of a certain color, and every time a student asks a question, put a little Q next to their name. Every time they share out an answer, put a little A. Or if that's even too much, put a dot every time that kid independently shares anything that class period, and have a goal of getting every kid to 2 or 3 dots a class period. And when you start to notice, hey, this kid hasn't spoken much, that's when you're going to give them openings, or say, I noticed that you specifically put your sticker for Consensogram next to communications. Would you be able to get the discussion started as to why you did that? So give them that specific opening to share if they want it. And then, like I said, on the right side, you'll see let student voices be the loudest, encourage discussion, allow for wait time. And like Katie and I say, it always feels awkward in the beginning, but it really does make a difference, because once they gather their thoughts in their head, they are more confident to share. And if you still have a class that there are those sticky classes where they don't feel comfortable whole class sharing, that's when you can do what we call think, pair, share. So you can have them independently have think time, share with one other person next to them, if you're in person, a partner, a shoulder partner, and then share out loud, or even say, can you share what your shoulder partner told you out loud? Anything to get them talking. And yeah, bottom line, if you're having fun, the students are having fun. So positively reinforce them. Thank you so much. That was awesome of you. I noticed that Alex said this idea. I thought that was really wonderful. Could anyone build off of him? Stuff like that. Just speak positively around them and about them, and they will absolutely grow in front of you and build community in front of you. All right, we've come to the end of the teacher training slides. So we want to give you guys time to do questions if you have any about anything that we've said to you today. And then Jessica, is there anything else that we need to mention?
I don't have anything specific. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to do Q&A. If you need to hop off, you are welcome to hop off. If you have questions, we will stick around and answer them. If you're going through these materials and have questions about the materials after the course, or just basic logistical questions, or You can email choosedo@acom.org. I think the emails that Maggie has been sending you have been coming from that email address as well. And she'll field those for us and make sure they get to the right person to respond to you quickly.
So if you think of any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat or raise your hand. If you don't have any questions and you're ready to celebrate Father's Day or just have dinner or whatever, you are welcome
I do
to
have a question.
Go ahead.
So there are at least 3 medical students for each portions of classes, correct? How is that going to be divided between lessons? Because I know there are 10 lessons.
So that's a great question, and I meant to touch on that. So thank you for asking. There's lots of different ways that you can co-teach these lessons. One way is that you can do kind of like you just had alluded to and say, okay, I'll do lesson 1, you do lesson 2, you do lesson 3. While I'm teaching, you just kind of circulate, see if kids have questions, see if they're struggling, if they need to hear directions again, that kind of a thing. You can also say, all right, today I'll do the warm up, you do the lesson activity, and you do the wrap up. So it's up to you and what works for you and your other student doctors to figure out how you want to collaborate and how to work together on the lessons. If partway through you realize you all have been doing, like I do lesson 1, you do lesson 2, and you don't really like that way, switch it up and do it however works for you. But that's something that also, if as you all are working together, you're having trouble figuring out what you want to do, you can email that choosedo@acom.org, and they can get in touch with Rachel and me to help you out as well.
And we paired you guys up in those smaller groups because we understand that medical student schedules can be a little bit crazy. So we wanted to give you guys some flexibility and make sure that the students were always covered in those classes. So, but that's a great question.
Yeah, so just going back off of that, what you just said with the availability and the flexibility, if one day or 2 days is like difficult for one person to make that meeting, obviously they would let the rest of their group know and then they would coordinate it in advance. Is that like okay?
I'm going to let Jessica answer the logistical question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the purpose because we totally understand that you guys have so many other prior commitments, and being able to rely on each other and make sure that the classroom is covered is really important. So feel free to communicate freely with your other student teachers and make sure that they understand that you guys are working it out and feel supported. But just, yeah, that's totally fine. And Kitty, I think there's a question in the chat. Oh, it's a direct message to me, but I think it would be good for the group. I'm going to read it out loud. Second year LECOM students have not yet received white coats due to COVID. What should we wear to stay formal? Like a physician, wear a stethoscope and formal attire. Yeah, I would say if you have a stethoscope, that would be awesome. Anything to indicate that you are a physician or physician in training. I totally understand that COVID has really thrown everybody for a loop. So yeah, I would just say do your best. It's not the end of the world if there's not a white coat.
You could also wear a shirt of the school that you attend or something like that. And like Jessica said, if you don't have those things, that's okay. You'll stand out because you're the adult. So it just would be great if you do have those things available to use them. If you don't, of course, that's okay.
Thank you guys for the meeting today. I was just wondering if alternatives should expect any like follow-up information after this meeting or any info on next steps.
I think right now everybody has confirmed their teaching slots, so we're not assigning alternates to new slots. We are encouraging everybody, if they want to find a group of students on their own to do so. But right now, I don't think we have enough room in the pilot to accommodate everybody. But we will definitely keep you on our email list and continue to give you updates about how the pilot's going. And we really appreciate all of the enthusiastic support. We really were shocked by how many people were really interested in this program, and it was really exciting to see that. So appreciate all your time.
I know as a teacher that if someone involved in this program reached out to my school counselor or an administrator via email, if you just look up some of the schools that are around where you live, and get in touch with someone from those schools and say, hey, I have this program available. It's free. This is how it would work. Get in touch with me if you're interested. And I bet that you would be able to find some interested schools who could get in touch with some families for you.
That's a great idea.
This is that wait time we were talking about.
Yeah.
Also, you all, I just want to say thank you so much. You did an awesome job of staying engaged and making this really fun for me. Hopefully it was fun for all of you too, to get a little preview of what you'll be doing. I hope that you're feeling really excited about it and inspired to work with these students. You could make a huge difference with them. You might be the reason that they decide to set their mind to become a physician, hopefully a DO. So thank you so much for your participation in this.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Kate said. You guys have done a wonderful job humoring us. I know that you don't go to a lot of Zoom meetings where you talk about Ratatouille and Mulan and play charades, but you guys did a great job leaning into it. And I know you're going to be wonderful with the kids. So just thank you, because even them seeing you and seeing different kinds of people modeling what it's like to be a med student, that in itself can make all the difference, and them believing that they could be in your shoes in a few years.
Asha, I did see your direct message in the chat. I'm gonna forward this to Maggie, who might be able to help coordinate, and we might be able to answer your question offline about your teaching date.
Thank you.
Man, you all are good hanging around. My staff meetings, when the principal says, all right, you all can go if you're done, everybody's out and no one has left yet. So if you all think of any other questions as you look through things, like Jessica said, send an email. If you have a question that you want to ask, you can hang on as people log off if you want to ask us. But you all did a fantastic job. I know you'll do awesome. And we're always available as you think of any questions as you're preparing for the program.
Bye, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the information.
And then there were 4. Do you want to stop recording, Maggie?
Yeah, Maggie, can you